Want to know how to maximize the bang for your buck and build a complete chassis for not a lot of money? Stick around. So what we're going to try to do here in this video is get a full-ish sim racing rig with basically every single component. That means chassis, wheelbase, pedals, hopefully with load cell depending on what you need and how much you want to spend, also a seat and also a steering wheel. So you're gonna get the whole shebang. Some prices or choices will depend by region and also by time of year, and also depending on the new taxes they are having in the United States, which they'll call it tariffs. I really enjoy creating these types of videos, trying to help people getting into sim racing without breaking the bank. So if you find these videos useful, don't forget to press a like and drop a sub. I'm trying to get 100,000 subscribers. I also have the affiliate links for some of the brands below that we're talking about. But first, a word from our sponsor, Coach Dave Academy. Coach Dave Academy is the premier sim racing resource to help you become the best sim racer you can be. You'll have access to telemetry, setups made by pro esports drivers like Yuri Kazdorp, reference laps and coaching covering titles like iRacing, Assetto Corsa Competizione, Le Mans Ultimate and Gran Turismo 7. Join in today, link in the description. For this video, I do need to assume that you will at least have a monitor, a PC, or a console to use this. And also, the prices are going to depend if you're using this on a PC or the consoles, but some of the options already have the Xbox compatibility. While all of the options I'm going to say to you are basically new stuff, I would also recommend you that you check your second-hand markets like Facebook, eBay, and somewhere else that you'll have in your area, because you might find something really interesting. We're going to start with the chassis, and for chassis there are quite a few choices, and I'm going to give you a few examples, but for the examples of the extruded aluminum, look at them as more of a template, not really just these choices. The choices I'm going to give you are solid, pun somewhat intended, but if you find something similar in the same vein as these ones in your area from another company and the price is the same and the price is right, look at them because it's essentially the same type of solution. And for starters, we're going to have a look at the GTO Omega Prime Light R. In this case, this is a very simple, one of the most simplest type of extruded aluminum chassis you're going to find out, and this is in the 40 profile. And you know it's a 40 profile if you look closer at these pictures. You see there's only really one rail over here. This, for this type of profile, makes it to be a 40 type of profile. This is a very simple yet still somewhat sturdy sim rig. This will be the entry level of entry level for extruded aluminum. It will have a pedal deck over here, very basic. It should be solid enough for most of what we're going to talk about and most of what you're going to put here. And then it will have a wheelbase deck that will be compatible with everything. And because this is essentially an extruded aluminum, it will be, you know, very simple to adjust, or simple enough to adjust your height and to your length of the legs and whatnot. So very simple, and the price, as you can see, it is very right. And remember, one of the advantages of extruded aluminum rigs like this one, because it's extruded aluminum, you can add or remove features as you progress. You can basically keep a chassis like this, and then if you want to expand it or make it more rigid or a little bit different, adding a different pedal tray later on down the line, you already have the chassis. You can basically change it as you go. Another example on the 40 type of profile will be the Track Racer TR40S, exactly the same type of deal. It is a very simple extruded aluminum. This one, it's somewhat, you can make it smaller or larger as well if you want to, I believe, maybe not. But as you can see, very much the same deal, same price-ish. And it comes also with an extruded aluminum choice over here, so you can add a shifter bracket if you want to. And, you know, very simple, so it works quite nicely. Another two examples for more entry level, but now they start to become a little more expensive. In this case, 100 pounds more expensive, will be the Prime Light Cockpit. Very popular for good reasons. It has basically all the trimmings you're going to need. As you can see, it is a thicker profile. In this case, it's an 80 type of profile. The price isn't really that bad, and it comes also with the shifter brackets if you want in the future add a shifter, or if you want from the get-go add a shifter into this. Everything else is more or less the same. The difference is that this is going to be slightly wider, so it will give you a little more stability, and also it should be, because it's a thicker profile, it should also be a little more stable. Track Racer also offers something like this. The price is also very similar, and once again, with their own design choices, maybe it'll have a better pedal tray for you. I don't know, it really depends on what you want to get. So very simple kind of stuff that will probably suit you for this type and this type. It could probably be the first and last rig you're gonna get, because it will be good enough for most of the things. I've had the GT Omega Prime, which is almost double the price. It's 200 pounds more expensive. I could deal with it for the rest of my life, because, you know, it's something that you build and you just need to adapt it to your needs, and it's plenty rigid enough for everything you're going to throw at it. This will also be the case for it. Now, these aren't the only type of chassis you can get for more or less entry-level prices. There are like more prefabricated type of deals, like the Titan cockpit, which are essentially just a very simple thing to build. They are more or less rigid enough, and even though this one requires some of the bolts at the top to be changed, it's not an expensive solution, but they're really not perfect and not as changeable as other cockpits, but they're much easier to deal with, especially when you're trying to build something, because there's really only one way you can assemble this. One of them will be the choice of the Titan cockpit. There are many more of this, and I can't remember all of them. And also the Simrigs K3. I've used the K2R, which will be more expensive, and I don't do it anymore. This is a very simple cockpit to assemble, extremely simple. And this one specifically, it is extremely sturdy, and the price isn't really that bad, but it really depends. If you want something a little cheaper that already has everything, but you need to put some time into assembling it, it will be a better choice to go for extruded. But because we have to have a look at seats for some of these, there are solutions out there that aren't generally not recommended. Really depends on what you're having. That will also have the seat kind of integrated. You can have a look at these really flimsy ones, for example the spring folding cockpit, which can be used with the direct drive. Not really recommended, they are kind of flimsy. Or you can have a look at something more like the play seat trophies. The play seat trophies actually can handle direct drives not too bad, and they're somewhat comfortable, and they actually look okay, but of course it does have much more limitations, and the price is a little more on the high part. Then you can also have look at the next level racing kind of stuff. They have, for example, the GT Lights, but once again, not really that good, or the FGTs that have been for a while, and even also the Victories. But the Victories tend not to be the best choices, because they're very tubular, and tubular stuff does have sort of flex, and they also have issues with when you apply torque into it, they kind of bend one way or the other. But these ones will definitely save you some money at the expense of rigidity. So if you want to save money and you're not too fussed about rigidity, these could be some of the choices. But if you choose one of these, you know, the Simrigs K3 is a good one, but make sure that they are something that have like thick parts of steel. And if you look at these very tubular ones, it will be likely the case that you'll have issues then with fragility. So you have to look at that. One last choice for a tube cockpit that is actually rigid will be the CSL cockpit, but it's more on the expensive side. But it does have a whole ecosystem behind it where you can put chairs, and you can put bucket seats and all of that stuff. So it could be a choice for you if you want to keep everything integrated. This is actually a quite decent chassis, but it's more compatible with only Fanatec stuff. And while we were talking about seats, seats will be the next thing, especially if you don't buy them with seats, like some of these options. There are a few ways to look at this. There are like a couple of choices, or in reality 3 choices. There are the bucket seat inspired office chair seat that then are done to sim racing, like the GT Omega XLRS kind of stuff. Let me find me over here, the recliner seats. This one, for example, is the one that I'm using at the moment. I've been using this for like 5 years now. They last a bit, but they are not the most rigid, but they're extremely comfortable. They also have other choices. These ones, I have no idea how they are. These are somewhat difficult to install because the rails aren't too big. Then you have the choices of bucket seats. There are bucket seats everywhere. For me, I don't particularly like bucket seats because they kind of make me too cramped, and I like to have my legs moving. I like to do wheel in tow and all of that, but these could be some of the choices. Next Level Racing does some bucket seats, Track Racer does some bucket seats, now even Fanatec does some bucket seats. Or you can use the third option, which could be very good depending where you live, especially if you have a car breaker. You can go to eBay or to a car breaker and you can find car seats, and I've been looking for myself some few car seats. For example, this one over here from a Citroen C5, apparently it's super comfortable and the rails are good. And for these situations, of course, you need to make sure that the bucket seat, or the seat in this case, is in good condition. As you can see, it's a fraction of the price, but also you'll have to make sure that the rails at the bottom will actually be straight, because if they have like strange shapes, like in Toyota sometimes it has strange shapes to contour to the chassis or to the interior of the car, then you'll have to cut parts, and then you have to solder parts and solder rails, and it's probably not the best choice. But if you look at some of these situations, some of these choices, you can even find something a little more sporty. For example, I'm in Europe, if you want to have a Seat Ibiza kind of deal, even though this one is full of mold, you shouldn't choose this one. For example, this one from a Seat Ibiza 6F from the FR, very comfortable. Or the ones that I'm looking at as well, for example, this seat from a Giulietta, as you can see, not too expensive, and these ones most of the times will bolt directly, but once again, you really need to make sure that the rails will actually bolt directly, and you probably will need to do some adjustments. But if you investigate, you go to Reddit, sometimes people tell you, oh, I bought this and it works perfectly. Have a look at that, because that will save you a bunch of money. And now we're going to have a look at wheels, and to leverage all of this, we need to have a look at bundles. But for the bundles, it depends on what you want to get, and if you want to get a load cell. For me, I would heavily recommend a load cell, because that's basically the single most important component of your whole rig. Having a good chassis is good, but the load cell is where you gain or lose most time, because the braking pedal is the most important pedal of your pedal set. So for that, we need to leverage everything. We need a bundle that has everything, and if you want to expand on the bundle, you add more wheels, you can do that. You can have a look at Fanatec. Fanatec has this really interesting bundle. In reality, it has 3 of them. For this specific one, it will have the CSLDD 8 Newton meters. You can also have a look at the CSLDD 5 Newton meters, but having more torque is better, and it's a 100 pound difference, not really that bad. And it comes with the pedal set with no load cell, comes with the wheel and the wheelbase. That means you need to get the load cell, and the load cell, if I'm not mistaken for this, if you want it, it's 160 euros. So this will be a big impact on the price, but still it will be around 660 pounds, which is not too bad considering you're gonna have a wheelbase, and a pedal set with a load cell. Also, this pedal set is usually moddable. You can go to Etsy, you can go to eBay, and there's a lot of people that have really high-end type of mods for this that completely changes the feel of these pedals. So this could be a pedal for the future. Then there's also other things, depending on what you want, depending on what you're going to drive. If you're going to drive Formula 1, if you're going to drive cars for GT, you could have a look at the CSLDD QR2 F1 Ready to Race. That already has everything. It will be 8 Newton meters as well. It will have the Formula 1 Esports steering wheel V2. This it's pretty good. Lots of buttons out there. It will have already a load cell, and it also will have 8 Newton meters. Or even going a little bit above, that already has everything. It will be 800 pounds. It will have this one specifically, which will be the Ready to Race McLaren, that has the McLaren wheel instead of a Formula 1 wheel, which is, in my opinion, a really, really good wheel. It's getting dated, but it does things really well because it has rotaries, it has a lot of buttons. Very useful wheel. It was my main wheel up until I got a GSI GXL, so it tells you that you could use this for a long time, and I've used this for like 3 or 4 years. But also it will have one of the most underrated pieces of pedals out there, which will be these CSL Elite V2s. Fantastic pedals, and all of this will be compatible with the Xbox. However, if you want to go to the PlayStation, then I'm sad to say you'll have to spend more money. In this case, it will be either the Gran Turismo DD Pro or the Gran Turismo DD Pro 8N. If you want to add the load cell, unfortunately, you do have to pay 160 pounds extra, so it will be around 860 or close to 1,000 euros. And that, it's a big stretch, it's a big bump up, but it's the price you have to pay in order to get a full set with everything. Other choices will definitely be Monza, because we need to find, once again, we need to have a look at bundles, and they do have a couple of, well, they have quite a few bundle choices. For the bundle choices, once again, it really is going to depend if you want the load cell pedal or not, because the R3 I would generally ignore, because even though it's better than the Logitech G923, you know, for the extra price you can have the R5 bundle, and they also come with the same pedals that we're trying to ignore. So for the R3 and the R5, they have, you know, good bundles for the PC and the Xbox. We can have a look at this one and this one over here as well. It will be with the pedal set, 300 pounds, but no load cell. This pedal set cannot have load cell. If you want to add a clutch, it will be 44. If you just buy this without a load cell, I would recommend that you get the performance kit. For me, it's the minimum necessary for this pedal set. For the R5, it's exactly the same thing, but instead of $299, it will be $439 plus the $29. However, for this specific set of kits, if you want to get the load cell, you do need to get a third or a second, in this case, a second pedal set. So, going for other bundles, because we have to go for the bundles, I would recommend that if you get something, if you're going to get already a second pedal set, or in this case, or a one pedal set if you're going for the R9 or KS, you choose either the KS or the V2P. The KS will be less expensive than the GS or the GS Vision. It will be $589 with the steering wheel and the wheelbase, or it will be $589 with the V2P wheel and the V3 R9. So these ones are okay-ish wheelbases, but because they come in bundles, it already has the wheel, and the wheel generally it's 240 pounds, and this one it will be a little more expensive at times. Or if you want to spend a little more, I would recommend either the KS R12. For me, the R12 is still one of the best bang for the bucks out there. It will be 700 pounds. Of course, it will be more expensive, but these are our choices. If you don't want to go towards the entry-level pedals, you have to buy pedals separately, and we're going to have later on a few choices for pedals. SimMagic now also is entering the more entry-level kind of stuff, especially with their new Evo series. The Evo 9 apparently is really good, and it's 400 pounds or $400 thereabouts, depending where you're gonna buy it. And then you can also have the Neo series, the GT Neo, which is, in my opinion, probably one of the best bang for the buck in terms of steering wheels. It's not that expensive, it's $269. It comes already with a quick release, so everything is already set up for you if you're using it with SimMagic. But if you want to use this in other wheelbases, you can also use it. It does need to be used over MagLink. It has plenty of buttons. It has rotaries of all types, so this could be like a very useful wheel if you're starting in sim racing and you want to have something that is decent and long lasting. And now it's time for pedals. If you need a pedal with load cell, depending on the bundle that you choose, you probably do not need that. In this case, the cheapest options, or one of the cheapest options, will be the Monza SRP pedals, 139 pounds, 150 euros, depending where you are. Once again, load cell pedals. If you want to add a clutch, you can also add a clutch for next to nothing. They're decent enough. They're nothing special, but they'll be good enough for most circumstances, especially if you want to have a sim racing rig in the context of this video. Another choice that is new and also not too bad will be the SimMagic P500 load cell pedals. Very basic entry-level pedals that will be 450 euros as well. And if you want to add a clutch, you can also add the clutch separately. This one comes with a few features, and you can also add other extras like these haptic pedals. You can do a lot of stuff, and apparently they are very changeable side to side, so they are quite an interesting proposition. Now for Fanatec also has a few offers. They have the CSL pedals. It's 99, but doesn't have the load cell. These pedals are okay without load cell, but with the load cell it makes it better, but it will be 250 euros, which will be more expensive, 100 pounds than the other choices, but they will have a clutch. In that case, they will be around 80 euros more expensive, but compatible with the Xbox if you use them on a wheelbase. Though their best choices, in my opinion, will be the CSL Elite V2s, and now with the V3s, because they have done quite a price drop, and this is quite an aggressive price drop. These pedals are okay, but they do require the performance kit, but this is more on the more expensive part. If you buy it with the performance kit, they're actually pretty good. They're very well constructed generally. They feel quite nice. The clutch is actually quite good, and so is the throttle. It's super smooth, and they do feel quite premium, and I've used this for like 3 years. But the brake pedal, in my opinion, on the V2s is better, but you know, or more suitable for my type of driving, but you give and take a little bit. There are also other choices like the Thrustmaster TLCMs, but in the face of everything else out here, or even CRP2s if you want to spend just a little more, those are kind of lacking because they are not as well constructed as any of the choices we've seen right here. But there's also a third type of option out there, which will be the Chinese type of Huizinga copies, and I'm gonna have one of these soon to review. I think it's probably even this one. Simpson contacted me to have a look at this stuff. There's a bunch of brands out there. There's Simpson, there's Simrito, Simjack, and plenty of other stuff out here, but it really depends on your customs and how much your customs are going to, you know, grab you by the gentlemen or womanly parts once they get through them. Because as you can see, the price of them, let's say a 2-pedal set of these basic-ish, 136 pounds plus delivery. That should be like, they say £1, but it takes a lot of time to get, plus whatever it's going to be in customs, 20-30% on top. These will have mixed type of bags in terms of quality. I should have one from Simpson. I believe it will be the Simpson Pros in the future. As you can see, it's 260 pounds, which is more or less in line to the other ones that are more entry level, but it really depends on the type of brand you get and also the quality control, and these ones still have kind of middling quality control. I'm just giving you options over here because there will be options over here for you if you want to risk a little bit and probably get something a little bit better. In essence, what we have here, and depending on the choices that you gotta get, is a set with the chassis, with the wheel, a wheelbase, and a pedal set, even with the load cell most of the times, at around 1,000 euros or less. But I want to hear from you what you think about these choices, what you would recommend, and what is available on your area, like South America and Asia, and also in Africa and Oceania, because, you know, the market there can be also kind of strange. Tell us in the comments below, because I'm pretty sure that is going to help somebody.